Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about the super importer exporter as it relates to importing aka Raisin data. The super importer exporter allows us to import data from virtually any source, and today we're going to talk about importing data from Raisin. You'll see that the super importer exporter is just a standard Razor's Edge plugin run from the regular plugins menu for on-prem clients as well as Blackbaud hosted clients. If you're on NXT, then it also works from the hosted environment run from the classic or database view of NXT. You can see from my screen prior that we have several mappings, and the way the process works is we create a mapping document that defines how the aka Razor will come in to Razor's Edge. Now, as part of our service, we help you set that all up. So you don't have to watch this video and think, okay, now I have to set this all up by yourself. Don't worry, we are there every step of the way, holding your hand, making sure every field that you need mapped gets mapped correctly. All right, let's talk about the mapping process. Basically, the mapping process is the same no matter what data you're bringing in. There's a few little changes depending on the source of the data, whether it's aka Raisin versus a CSV file, for example. On the screen, there's not a whole lot we have to worry about here. This is more of a setup screen. However, I want to draw your attention to the constituent matcher we're going to talk about at the end when we run the video. Under the Source tab, aka Raisin has their own This is not a Razor's Edge ID, however, this is their own unique ID number, and we recommend that as an alias. This way, if you happen to be within the back end of aka and you have a donor, you can quickly come over to Razor's Edge, put it in, find it, and off you go. In here, we've got some super secret codes that allow us to connect and talk to Raisin. Raisin's data is all in the cloud, and what we do is we talk to it automatically. So we say, hello, Raisin, this is who we are. Can you please let us in? And they go, sure, and then we send it a date range, and then they send us back the data. The power behind the entire system is the Field Mapping tab. And in here, you will see there are 5 columns of information. The first column is all of the data available to us from the aka Raisin constituent and gifts API. The second column is where data is going to go in Razor's Edge. The third, the record area anyways. The third column is what field specifically it's going to go into. And then I'll talk about custom values and tables in a minute. So you can see we've got title. We're mapping that to a constituent field. You can see in the drop down we have all of the fields available to us. And then we've got specifically which field within the constituent is going to go. If I scroll down, you see we've got address fields, we've got phone numbers, solicit codes, even attributes, and gift information. So you can see within one pass, I am doing several things: constituents, addresses, phones, because in 796 and higher, or 795 and higher, phone numbers are separated, gifts, gift attributes, whatever it might be. The fourth column is our custom values. And what this allows us to do is transform the data. Because remember, we're going off to the web, we're grabbing the data, and we're pulling it in. So let's take user opt-out for a minute. We're going to map that to a solicit code. User opt-out says that they don't want to be, the user is opting out of any communication from you. That comes actually from aka as a true or false. Did the user opt out, true or false? But we want that to be a solicit code of do not solicit. So what we do is we use our custom values, which is like Excel, but not really. It's our own language. We nicknamed it JMG.net, and basically allows us to transform the data. So we use our square brackets in this particular case to say, if I find true, make it do not solicit, and then of course it gets mapped to solicit codes. Now we do have a separate training video on custom values. Don't worry about the custom values. We have a complete detailed manual that comes with it, as well as you can, we will help you set any unique custom values up you want. And then last but not least is tables. And what this allows us to do is to build a table of value lookup for transforming the data. So for example, if I scroll up here and find city, I could link it to our city table. And then what this basically does is allows us to map a table of lookups. Hey, if you see Willowdale, that doesn't really exist anymore. Make it Toronto. If you see this value, make it that value. So that's what the table of lookup allows you to do. This is very powerful when it comes to things like campaign funds and appeals. You might have a particular field in your form or in your data that represents a fund. and it might be more donor friendly on the website, area of greatest need, research programs. But in the back end of Razor's Edge, it has to be more like 123-7, or it might be unrestricted, or it might be something else. So we can use this to transform the data. Speaking of campaign funds and appeals, we have different ways. We have 3 different ways we can tackle the campaign funds and appeals as it relates to bringing in data. In the source tab here, we actually have a grid system which we could use to look up based on a form name or some other particular fields. Depending on how you set it up, our consultants will work with you to say, okay, this is the best way we should look up the campaign funds and appeals by a lookup value from within the data. And you can see we can map campaign fund appeal package, gift subtypes, events, letter codes. If we can't do that, then we can, in the field mapping specifically, we could say if we have a field in the data that represents fund, then we can map that in there. I don't particularly have one in my sample data, but we can always add something in there if we need it. Okay, so that's the field mapping tab, a little bit about campaign funds and appeals. Now, we can also add new fields at the bottom. So for example, if you said, Jeff, we want everybody to have a constituent attribute language for English. And I'd be like, okay, we can do something like this. And then I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to do this here. You can see I'm adding a second field for date. And then I'm going to put in one last for the comment. So our plugin will take these 3 lines and make them one attribute row in Razor's Edge. How does it do that? Well, that's what the 01 stands for in the custom values. If you've ever imported in Razor's Edge, you know how they have those extension fields at the end of when you're doing a standard Razor's Edge import. That's what it allows us to do. So it knows by putting in the 01 versus a 02 versus a 03 that those are all together. This allows us to have multiples of the same attribute or different attributes brought in. And then, of course, English was typed in all uppercase. I don't want it in uppercase. I want it to be capital E, lower everything else. So I use our case P function. Yes, I could have typed it incorrectly, but then I could not have shown you the case P function. The rest of the mapping all has to do with just standard Razor's Edge stuff. So under constituents, we have an option of proper case names and addresses for you. Coming from online, people type things all weird and wonderful ways. We want to try to standardize it. We do have a titles and gender lookup. So if we don't know Robert, we could look him up and see if he's male. We'll also split out 2 names automatically. So in the first name field, if it says Susan and Jim, we will take Jim, put him into the spouse with the last name, making him a non-constituent. The biggest question we get is, of course, how do we do searching? And that's what the search criteria down here does. So let me take a minute to explain that. Searching is a 3-step process. We first start by ID numbers. So if we have previously matched you by using your ID number, your AKA ID number, we will bring that in and we will search for that. If you have a piece of data that represents the constituent ID for whatever reason, we can also use that. If we can't find you by the first name, by the ID number, we then search by first name, email address and phone number. First, we check all through the emails, then all the phone numbers. However, when you're talking with peer-to-peer, people might register for an event, but use the same email address, thesmithfamily@gmail.com. And then you've got Robert Smith registering, you've got his wife, Kelly, registering, and then you've got the 2 kids, Jimmy and Susie, all using the same email address. So our second search is by email and phone, but we allow you to specify a portion of the first name and last name and postal code or zip code to also help identify that person. So if we see Robert Smith at the smithfamily@gmail.com, and we also see Kelly Smith at the smithfamily@gmail.com, we will actually treat them as separate registrants and attach them to separate participant entries in the events module in a peer-to-peer or fundraising event scenario. Finally, if we can't find you by email or phone, we check on last name, first name, and postal code to try to find you. If we still can't find you, then we serve you up as a new person. Plus, we do allow you to do your own search. So if somebody put in a different name, but you know them as Bobby Smith, but he put in his full name of Robert, or vice versa, you would still be able to do your own search and try to find them. You, of course, can set your addressee and salutations on new records. You can set the addresses and what address updates you want to do. If you get a change of address and we detect that and you keep previous addresses, we can set that up for you, and the plugin will do that automatically. You can also define some phones and email preferences if we need it. And then, of course, constituent codes. Every record should have a constituent code. When it comes down to gifts, this is the third way we can assign a campaign, a fund, and appeal. So if you're doing just some regular events and we just want to assign everything to the same campaign, we can click on the button here and we can just pick a standard campaign from the standard Raiser's Edge search. So we can do that for campaign, fund, appeal, and then once you pick an appeal, then it pulls down the appropriate packages. We have some options in here for other gift options that may appear. We do by default put things into a batch for you, and we give you some batch preferences here in terms of how to change the description, ID number, things like that. However, if you don't batch or you don't like batching, then of course you can come back to the gifts and you can say, you know what, don't batch the gifts. Let's put them straight in. That's up a payment screen to deal with any payment preferences, MasterCard, Visa, differences from your merchant provider, credit card processor to Raiser's Edge. And then, of course, we can handle recurring gifts. We have some recurring gift options depending on how you're bringing recurring gifts in from Raisin. If you're doing any event, we can deal with that. If you have any membership data, we can break that in, as well as any tribute data. We can enable tribute processing, which would give us a second matcher for trying to match up the tributes. So that is the mapping. Now, the thing to remember with the mapping is that as part of the fee is complete setup. It also includes unlimited mappings. It also includes unlimited training. So you don't have to worry about, oh, you know what, I don't remember what you said. Can we call in? Sure, call into our support line, or you can book a meeting with one of us and we will take you through that particular entry. If you want to focus on updating a particular thing, maybe you're only using Raisin for a singular donation form, but now you're using it for peer-to-peer or fundraising event, and we have to make some changes based on the data to the mapping. So that is how the mapping system works in Super Importer Exporter, or SIE, as we call it. So I'm going to cancel out of here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run the mapping. So I'm going to come down here. Now I'm going to change the date to the 20th, and I'm going to set it to the 24th here of September. And I'm going to change the start date by double-clicking to the full day. So it's going to start on the 20th, go to the 24th, and pull in the last donations. Now, remember, I said we're going out to the Raisin API programming interface and pulling data in. As a result, you don't get to see the data. It just starts processing it. But we do have an option here where you can create an archive file, a backup file, if you will, of the data you just downloaded. So if you wanted to look at it at the same time while you're processing it, or you wanted to have it as a backup saying, here's the data we downloaded, to attach to a batch or do something with it. Maybe in the media tab, or just to keep it on file in case something crops up, then of course we can keep that. So I'm going to hit the Update RE button now. It's going to go out to the web here, go to AKA Raisin and say, hello, I'd like the data, please. Give me all of the data. So it tells me there are 3 records for this time frame. You can see it gives us a little progress bar, and then now the matcher will appear. So at the very beginning, I talked about the constituent matcher, where it's an optional screen that will display the data that appears. So here it is. It's showing us the person. You can see here the search criteria used was ID provided from source. So this person we've already searched. We already found them in the system, and Raiser's Edge SIE detected that. Now, you can see this part is in red. What happens is if we detect data different in the incoming data, which in this case is AKA, and Raiser's Edge, we then highlight it in red for you to decide. If you have better data in Raiser's Edge, ignore it. If you have better data from the incoming data, AKA Raisin in this case, you could then click the checkbox here, and it will then update the existing record. You'll also notice that this here looks like a button. That's because it is a button. And if I click on it, it will now open the constituent record. So if I wanted to check a previous appeal, if I wanted to check an attribute, if I wanted to check previous giving, going, is this the right person? I, of course, can do that. Over here, we have this data view. So up here in the top left, and it will actually show you the raw data. You can look at it from there. All right, so I accept this person. This is a good person. I like it. I'm going to hit accept. I'm actually going to uncheck this because I have better data. I like the PO box. I don't like the data way that this person entered it, so I'm going to hit accept. It's going to go on to the next record. Down here, it's telling me it's processing the cash gift, so it's adding it to the batch. If it had updating the constituent, it would have done that as well. Next person, not in Raiser's Edge. I know that because no button. Also, the RE value is blank. So I can accept that, or if I want to do my own search, I can click the binoculars here at the end. I get the standard Raiser's Edge search screen, same search screen you're all familiar with. You can do your own manual search. Maybe I take out the first name, do another find now, and still nothing. Okay, so they're brand new. I can hit the add button. If I'm unsure, I can always hit the skip button, and what will happen is it'll create an exception file of that record that got skipped, and then you can go back and process it manually, or you can go back and double check the information within Raiser's Edge, and then run it through the plugin again. So I'm going to click add. Now it's adding this person to my database, and then it's going to serve me up 3. My little progress bar will get to 3 of 3 once it's done processing the batch. There's my new person. I'm cool with that. Obviously, it's not in here. I could do my own search, but I trust it. Down here, you'll notice it tells us a previous with a number. If I double click on that, it'll actually open up the last record. So if I've processed the record and then I want to go back and check something, I, of course, can do that. All right, I'm going to hit add, and it's going to add me the last record. And then it's going to come up and tell me my batch or my job is finished. And then it's going to tell me that which batch number has been created, if I created a batch that is, and how many gifts are in it. And then optionally, I can also create a query. I did not in this case, but if I had created a query of the constituents that were added or changed, it would also pop up. So that is how the super importer exporter works for AKA Raisin. I understand it was a little quick, but it should give you a quick overview. Happy to do a demo anytime. Please talk to the folks at AKA Raisin or give me a shout directly, Jeff at JMGSolutions.com if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.